you tell I'm in denial?
You can't stay at the top forever.
I was also very surprised when I looked at my phone and saw Joe Girardi dismissed.
Well, I think mine were with common sense.
I think now belongs in the all-time greats top 10.
Boston, I really think only got to this point because of a guy named Chris Middleton being out for the Bucks.
That power play just was unbearable. It was humming.
Man, am I happy. I knew that this was going to happen. I knew he was going to come back.
When I think of New York Yankees now is Judge, probably people in the past when Jeter was coming up.
I would be shocked. A little bit hurt.
Hey, this is Greg Tepper of Dave Campbell's Texas Football, TexasFootball.com, and Valley Sports Southwest. You are listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NHL Opinions of the Week. I am Kevin. I am joined by the man that I'm sure had he definitely had less stress than me on this past weekend. But I was even stressed during Game 7 between the Blues and the Winnipeg Jets. Austin, what a 2 Game 7s that weekend. The title is perfect for it.
Yeah, I mean, Game 7 madness. It was absolutely crazy watching both of those games. I was very impressed with both of the teams that came back in. I mean, I think the Blues, that was a little bit more heartbreaking because of how they lost with 1.6 seconds left on the clock. But Binnington played amazing. I mean, Hellebuyck has really played horrible outside of home. And even at home, he's had some moments where he was a little bit shaky, especially in this game. But they got it done, and the Jets move on, and now they're the home team against the other Game 7 that you really want to talk about between the Stars and Avalanche.
I don't want to talk about it because both were heartbreaking for both teams, but in very different ways. Like, you're 1.7 seconds away, if you're a Blues fan, of advancing to the second round. And then, to me, with Colorado, it's so heartbreaking because it was done by your former player. That the more research I've done into it, I kind of see some parallels to the Luka trade, which is kind of like a Dallas perspective. But to me, it made more sense why Colorado got rid of Rantanen, because there was a financial implication. And he wasn't doing too well at Carolina. So I think the theory, I understand that.
Well, he did well in Carolina.
Okay. But I think they were betting on, we have to pay him McKinnon, we have to pay Makar. We think McKinnon can help the other guy. And there is kind of the theory of, was Rantanen benefiting from McKinnon? So, but you and I know you didn't like the trade with Rantanen because we were talking about the Stars when we talked about Game 7. To me, the only way the Stars win the trade, quote unquote, is Rantanen is a big part of a Stanley Cup winning team, which I'm not saying they won the trade based on this game. That is very hyperbolic. But I do think that's what Jim Nill thought about when he made that trade of, I want to get someone like that. Because to me, those just 2 goals were amazing. To me, my favorite is the second goal. Even there was a lot of luck in that, just bouncing off the skate of Sam Girard. But I just don't know if there's a Stars player on the current roster that could have done that.
Sure, but again, like I told you before we recorded, I believe that if Robertson and Miro were healthy, they would have been a much better spot in this series, and that necessarily wouldn't have been needed, even if they didn't get Mikko. So I think that you can look at it that way, and it definitely helps their depth. I just don't think that their defense is going to be good enough to continue to move on in the playoffs. I mean, they're going to have a good shot against the Jets. Both of the teams are exhausted. They had very, very rough series they had to go through, but I do have my doubts regarding the Stars throughout the playoffs because of how poor their defense is.
Yeah, and you mentioned if Robertson and Miro, I think you can just say if Miro was healthy, I think the series could be different just because that's how much he impacts that defense. And the defense is really bad. He covers up a lot of weaknesses. And so that was kind of the thing, but I think that was just fantastic theater. But I can understand if you're a Colorado fan. I did text a Colorado fan. He hasn't texted me back yet. It was just a hug gif. but you sent that player away and he ends your season. And like he didn't want to leave. It was just kind of a business thing.
Yeah. It's hard. I would not have traded for Rantanen still. We'll see how it works out long term. And in this season. I mean, there's both ways you can view it, but I do think that I still have my doubts about it working out. But again, he scored a hat trick in a Game 7 to keep the Stars season alive. It's not the first that we've seen, but I do believe that, I mean, you needed to win this game if you're the Stars because, again, not just how old the roster is, but also you're making all these moves and you're on home ice. And there's been the past couple seasons of a lot of success, but it's going to be a lot of what are the Stars going to be able to do in the next round and the round after that and the round after that to actually win a cup. But I do think that they're going to have a good chance in this series because, again, both are relatively how do I say it? They're both relatively tired, exhausted from this past series, but they're both going to have a lot of energy come Game 1 because, I mean, it's a whole new slate.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what happens and kind of mentioning it more. Just like one more thing about the Rantanen trade, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the Blues and Jets. It's the Stars gave up a lot for Rantanen, and I think Stankoven is going to be a very good player, and I know he's doing well in Carolina, but I don't see Logan Stankoven doing that for the Stars, which is why it was more a win now move, but they gave up a lot, so that's where it's like you have to win a cup to justify that trade. So that's just kind of my view on it. Now going to the Jets and Blues, it did not look good for the Jets. Who you mentioned Hellebuck. I had the Jets losing because for some reason Hellebuck just doesn't play up to his level of standard, which his level of standard is just insane. But like they were talking about one goal was on him on the broadcast, another was just bad defense. But they were able to get past, and I think that's a huge thing of how the Jets rebounded. And to me, the Jets, I still have the idea of they're not a great offensive team. And their top goal scorer was out, and they come back down from 3-1 with a few minutes left. So to me, that's pretty incredible. I don't think it's the Blues' fault. I think that's just the way things go in hockey, and the Jets were the best.
I do think that the Blues could have been a little bit more attacking in that overtime period. I think they were a little bit, but it's hard to come back after they just scored 2 straight. A goal at 1:55 led to cut it to 1, and a goal with 1.6 seconds left to tie it. Also, you're a long way from home, and the crowd's really into it. But I think this season is a success for the Blues. I mean, they got their coach. Bennington's really showed to be significantly improved from the past couple seasons. Playoff Bennington was kind of back in this series. And I do believe that moving forward, I think the Colorado is going to be more harmed by their loss than the Blues will be.
Yes, I agree. Because it's how do you replace Rantanen? The Blues are really just coming back up because, and yeah, Jim Montgomery is a great head coach, and they benefited from getting him and making that move for him. So I think there are a lot of young players, and I'm curious what happens with St. Louis. And a lot of goals, I just don't think Binnington could have really stopped any of those. Like, especially the first goal, it was just a great shot.
And the last goal was impossible to save. I mean,
it was a tip.
There's nothing to do about that. And in overtime, I mean, that's just tough. I mean, sometimes you're not going to be able to save it. It's just how the world works. But I was extremely impressed by how he played. This Blues team, I'm more confident about. Well, look, the Avalanche have McKinnon and McCarr, so you're going to be able to come back from this and be like, okay, we have guys. We're going to be able to be back in the playoffs. But it's not always as simple as having 2 really good players. We've seen that with the Oilers before. It doesn't necessarily guarantee playoff success or even making the playoffs, as the Oilers missed the playoffs before. Now, I don't necessarily think the Avalanche are in that sort of scenario, but they have things to fix. And the Blues, I think, are on an upward trajectory, while the Avalanche, I'm not so confident in their trajectory moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's a great point in talking about the Blues are on their way up, just kind of given roster construction and salary cap, while the Avalanche are on their way down-ish, which is why the Rantanen contract was coming up. And they're like, do we want to invest in so much money in 3 players? And like you trade for Mackenzie Blackwood. They had a lot of trades. I think they have another year of Netchus. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it.
Natchez.
Who they got in the Rantanen trade. But they do have to do more maneuvering to build a good roster. But it is helpful you have 2 really great players in McKinnon and Makar. It's just a lot. It's trickier because you have 2 set pieces. With the Blues, there's a lot of moving parts. And to me, I think that's easier than kind of what Colorado has to do.
Well, the Blues, I think, have a foundation, and I think they were kind of playing with house money, and I do think the Blues would have had a good chance to get the Stars as well if they had moved on.
Absolutely.
But obviously, that's not the case.
I think both would have been a tough matchup for the Stars. I don't know if I see them winning.
Well, again, I think both of us did not have them winning this series alone, or this past series alone. So,
yeah,
I mean, it's going to be a good series no matter what, and I'm excited for it. I expect a very close series, even though I do think the Jets will pull it out. But, I mean, for both of the teams that lost, it's not what you want, but I do think that the Blues are in a better chance moving forward because they have a vision. This is how we win. While I don't necessarily see that for the Avalanche.
Yeah,
I mean, how does Landeskog come back when he's actually back for a whole season? How many games can he play? And how does that all look? And also you have the fact that it's going to be hard for the Avalanche to keep going through these playoff. I mean, at some point you're just going to run out of gas, right? So it's going to be a very important offseason for both of these teams. But I do think that the Blues are in a better spot.
Yeah, to kind of steal your foundation. The foundation is set for the Blues, and kind of to mix my puzzle pieces, there was a foundation set for that Colorado team that won the Cup. Now, part of that foundation, I would say, is so I would view that foundation in that Cup team was Landeskog, Rantanen, Makar, McKinnon. Now you still have part of that foundation, but you need to rebuild half the foundation, which makes it difficult to me.
Sure.
Because it's how do you mix this in with the other parts of the foundation. But I do think they can figure it out, and I do think McKinnon and Makar give them a lot of leeway, but it's going to be tough, especially with just how good the other teams are. And you have the Blues coming up. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll let us know your thoughts on the comments about Game 7. Really incredible, I would say, from just an entertainment perspective. We appreciate you listening to Outsiders Opinions.